Hello and welcome to The Wilderness of Creativity, a platform for creatives and aspiring entrepreneurs to share their stories of survival. I'm your host, Lucy, and I'm so excited to share this creative journey with you. Working full-time and raising a small human has caused me to lose track and wander off-piste on several occasions, but I followed the signs and here we are, surviving the wild and feeling more connected and inspired than ever before. Whether you're a seasoned adventurer or just starting out, I'm here to cheer you on as you navigate this journey. Together, we will uncover practical tips and strategies for cultivating creativity, explore different ways of prioritising our creative energy when there are people to please and deadlines to meet. And we'll also discuss how we can foster a mindset that inspires connection, innovation and play in our daily lives. Tune in every month to hear how my guests find focus in a world that never stops buzzing and discover what it really means to take the road less travelled. Subscribe now to listen to The Wilderness of Creativity and remember to like, share and leave a review to show your support. You can also find us on Facebook and Instagram, so come and join in with our conversations. And that's it. Welcome to your next adventure. Hello and welcome to a very special episode of The Wilderness of Creativity. Today we're joining together to celebrate International Podcast Day with a powerful lineup of inspiring voices. Laura May Edwards, Nisha Canvas Creations, Jenny Moses, Jo Ferroni and Natalie Smithson. Each of these incredible women have bravely shared their stories and unique insights into what it really means to take the road less travelled. Together we discuss themes of embracing the journey, managing expectations, navigating life changes and the profound impact of community and collaboration. I'll be honest, lately I've been in a space of processing, and as I grapple with finding balance in my life working full-time as a teacher and being mum, I have found great support and inspiration from the amazing women I'm connecting with along this journey. And they remind me that it's going to be okay. Don't forget to follow our guests and share this episode with anyone who might be braving their own wilderness. Thanks for listening. Stay wild. I thought, sorry, you will get used to me. I thought we'd start with these.
Perfect.
So I don't know how we're going to do it because you can't all go stop because you're all going to choose different ones. But I'm just going to shuffle the cards and I'm just going to stop. Okay. So this card has actually come up for another guest. What you get by achieving your goals is not as important as what you become by achieving your goals.
Or not achieving your goals.
What do you mean?
Well, I think that's just such an important message generally, in terms of so often we focus so much on the goal itself that we blinker ourselves on the journey and don't feel what's actually happening to us along the way, in terms of what we become. I think not hitting the goals or maybe even choosing different goals along the way is just as important as achieving something that you set out to do initially.
I have to totally agree with that. I mean, because also when you're a creative, you're constantly changing direction because something new comes along, and no journey is just a straight line where you decide on what your goal is and you walk along and you get there. So there are obstacles, but also there are other great things that pop up in the way. And sometimes that's just such an opportunity and it can steer you right away from whatever that goal was. So I think it's also great to think about where we go and where our goals take us sometimes, and the meandering path we take to get to that point. We get so much out of that.
I think something I've learnt over the last sort of couple of years being a creative and sort of having goals as well, and setting up my Instagram and thinking, okay, right, in a few months' time I want to be here or achieve X, Y, and Z. I think letting go of the expectation of where it could go, because that's the whole point of being a creative, is we're kind of a bit more free flowing with how things feel, the direction we want to go, rather than being sort of logical in that goal. And you have little baby steps, absolutely. But I've learned to sort of let go of expectations, which removes sort of any kind of, disappointment or unrealistic realities around it. So I don't know if anyone else feels the same.
I was up till almost 11 o'clock last night re-editing an episode that I'd already edited because I wasn't quite happy with it. And it's about, and then me worrying that I can't manage it all, work, the podcast, being a mum. And for me, Nisha, that the kind of the expectations that I put on myself is something that I'm starting to readjust and manage. And to be fair, that's something that I've become a little bit more aware of since having the conversations with yourselves, and I think as creatives, we do put that extra pressure on ourselves. We want things to be just so, don't we?
Well, I mean, this is the journey, isn't it? All these things that you're learning, I've been learning, we're all learning as we go. And I think that's, if anything, that's the most important thing, because if you focus only on the project and only the thing you're doing right now, or this goal, what comes after that? You have to kind of think, what comes after that? What can I do next? You're kind of opening yourself up as you go to more. So you get all of the joy out of having achieved that goal of thinking, I've actually done it, and you feel amazing, but then then that you're capable of more. You don't want to stop at that point. So I think you have to move beyond the project itself and think about how you're growing, what you're learning, what you're taking from it. And that's kind of where all the richness is. That's what I found so far.
Yeah, I so agree with that. And also the energy that you put into learning. I think that we're always, again, so focused on that, what we're trying to achieve and the energy that goes into that specific piece. But like you're saying, that if you're opening up to the learning around it, well, that also takes energy in of itself, and nurturing the soil that you need in order for things to grow. What are you putting into that? What energy do you need? What space? What rest? I think, Lucy, as you were saying earlier, we're so hard on ourselves. We want it to be perfect. We want it to be exactly as it should be, but nothing is perfect. And being able to just have the time and space to reflect and to nourish and to rest, it deserves equal focus, I think, than the project or goal itself.
I have as well, actually. During this whole process, I've been learning to control my energy, or kind of appreciate my energy or notice it. And I just feel like that has been probably more valuable than anything. So I started to track kind of my creative peaks and troughs, and there were quite a few troughs at the time. And I was just like, what is going on? What's holding me back? So I was kind of trying to track everything else alongside. What's happening in your life, how you're feeling, how you're sleeping, how you're eating, just everything, which is really hard. I just go really hard. But I did, after like a few months, start to see a pattern. And although the pattern isn't, it's not like a straightforward up and down and pattern for me or routine. There's a definite trend, there's a definite flow. And as soon as I identified that and realized I'm not just dropping out here and failing there and all these negative things I told myself, I was just in this flow, which for me is maybe a bit kind of wonky, which is kind of me all over. And that was absolutely fine. And now I can make the most of it, but really managing my energy, being kind to myself. Like Laura, you mentioned rest. I was so bad at resting and relaxing. And what I found was the more I could do that, the more my brain just literally exploded and all these creative ideas could just be released. So I think energy is so vital.
I think, Laura, you mentioned it on the podcast recently about feeling your own energy and what feels right. Because a lot of us are in a world where there's routine and regimented, kind of schedules daily. I'm still in full-time work and having to also follow that and then create a balance of what do I do outside of that? How do I incorporate rest and kind of my own mental health and well-being. But you mentioned that in terms of the flow is also just picking up on your own energy. What feels right? Do I want an hour extra in bed? Will that help me? Absolutely. Will it's that balance. I'm all about balance, and it's sometimes really hard. But yeah, I agree. In order to sort of have that energy, you kind of have to enjoy that flow a little bit and be present. It kind of removes the anxiety around that end goal or where we're headed, which is hard. It's not easy. It's easier said than done. But yeah, you mentioned it on the podcast and it really resonated, so I quite like that.
So I can't ignore the sort of educational aspect of this. The fact that we very much focus our young people and our children on this end goal of achieving a set of exam results, like that is the most important thing. And I know I feel, and I know you, Lucy, you share this feeling with me, that the thing that is getting lost is that ability to just feel and be and enjoy and explore and create, because everyone's so focused on when you've got to get to that end goal, and that end goal is whatever that grade looks like, except that grade has probably now got to look a particular way because of the way in which everything is so measured. And here we are, 6 women of a certain age, all very creative, and all realizing that what we need to do is have time to just let that energy flow and be. And we're not letting our young people inhabit that world.
Being in the space with younger children, from being in secondary to now being in primary, the space just feels so alive, and I absolutely love that. And the fact that I have to cut that creative flow, and the children will just get into something and then the bell will go, okay, we've got to go now, and they go off and they're in something else, they're transitioning to another lesson. And so it's looking at the kind of the environment that we're in the school, and how it could be a little bit more conducive to creativity. I think that's the key thing.
I've loved hearing what everyone's saying so far, and it's made me realise that the journey I'm on at the moment with creativity is quite unique to anything that I've been through before. And so when I started my business, I was very aware, am I doing the right thing? Am I putting myself out there enough? And lots of questions, and a lot of almost self-judgment as well. Oh, should I have done that? Whereas with my poetry, which is the creative path I find myself meandering along at the moment, I've written all of the poetry, and so all I'm doing is sharing it, and that is really liberating for me, because I had such enjoyment, and I continue to have such enjoyment writing. And so when I share my work, that's almost just, it's a bonus, really. And I'm not thinking, is this good enough? Are people going to like it? I'm just putting it there. And if it resonates with someone, wonderful. And if it doesn't, well, I've already got it's been such a gift to me. Even the shortest little poem has been such a gift anyway. And I feel really privileged that I'm in that position, that there's no pressure at all.
I so hear that's exactly what I've just been doing as well. So I wanted to launch this immersive experience, and through doing it, had no clue. I was completely new to it, but it was also a process, a creative process, an emotional process, a growing process. And I literally just started a blog, and I just started blogging. And at the top, I said, I'm writing like nobody's reading, and I'm creating like I've never been pulled apart. Because for years now, I've been writing copywriting and writing content. And, writing copy is a construction. There's rules, there's ways to do it. you're being obviously measured on that all the time, especially with content, how things perform. And it obviously you're trying to get the branding in there as well. And all these things are kind of coming into play. And as much as I love that, I just wanted this release, and that's what it gave me. And it's been absolutely amazing. And I've literally, it might have been this week or last week, have just brought it to an end because I feel like it's given me everything that I need. And so I've written my last blog. I just don't feel the need to do that anymore. I can just kind of move forward with what I'm doing now. It's like shifted a load of stuff. And it was pure freedom. It's pure freedom just to put something out there like you did when you were a kid. I don't watch my children. They're not like going, oh my gosh, is so and so going to think this is okay? I'm going to get an A grade. They're just going for it. And the stuff they come out with is blinding. Like, it's just so beautiful and true to everything that they want to say and what they're seeing and what they're feeling. And I felt like I was doing that. And it might be weird, I think, to look back on it at some point, but it's done what it needed to do. And I think the more we can do that as grown-ups, the better.
So it's interesting, this to Jenny's point, and Lucy, you mentioned, is almost like a contrast with age and the creative flow, and the what I've noticed doing mentoring as well for kids sort of age 13, 14, is when you're younger and you're sort of growing up in your household with your family, and you're sort of creative on your own almost, or around like energy that isn't so comparative and not judgmental, but you're kind of free to just express yourself, and that's welcomed. And then as you grow up, which is what I found as well, and speaking to some of the kids at school, is they're always looking for someone else, something else to compare to, instead of sort of coming back to themselves. And I think maybe as creatives, as us, we tend to not isolate, but we find solitude, and are in our space, almost like when we're that small, maybe 3 or 4, and we're not around so many others. And there was this one kid in particular who was really sort of lacking in confidence and wasn't sure of what they wanted to do, what they liked, and felt really disconnected. And as I sort of spoke to them, got to know what they like doing when they're a bit younger, that confidence sort of grew. So the contrast between the two of, the energies of being a creative and not comparing to others, I find going back into sort of my solitude and being my younger self again, I feel a bit more confident in myself than when I'm around others and looking elsewhere, if that makes sense.
Perfect sense. And it sort of speaks a little bit to fitting in and how we always feel that we need to do that as we get older, comparison and judgment and what other people are doing. And that is what you said about the blog coming to an end because you wanted it to, because you'd felt it had done everything that you wanted it to do, was so powerful, because I don't think that we allow ourselves that freedom to do what we want to do in a timely way, because there's so many kind of societal constraints on us. And I think, again, to your point, Lucy and Jenny, in the kind of school environment, initially there's so much freedom and joy of just being and just being your young self. But then quite quickly, as you go through school and go into, you need to go to university, or, you should buy a house, you should get married, you quickly get into the shoulds of what society expects. So, and that's all kind of timed. There's a sort of a kind of official timing of what you're supposed to do and when. And that in itself extinguishes creativity and your ability to just say, actually, I want to do this in this time. This actually feels right to do this for a bit longer. But you're sort of pushed into, the flow of and a natural flow of other people's ways of doing things, as opposed to just what you want to do, or importantly, how you want to be and what you want to create in your own time, in your own way.
It's in those moments when life takes you by surprise that you realize that there's so much more that you could be doing, and it makes you reevaluate what you're doing and reprioritize. I mean, COVID was a huge moment in our history, and that was a massive thing for me. completely lost all sense of who I was. Obviously, I'd had my baby as well, so I didn't know who I was, what I was doing. Then I was made redundant. And then it was all a case of, what is going on? I need to get off this like treadmill and kind of just stop and think. I remember driving up and down the motorway and thinking, what am I going to do? It felt like I was walking through treacle, like just so drained and lost. Laura May, you talked about it. You talked about feeling untethered. That is exactly how I felt in that moment. But it's in that moment that then the creative juices start to flow. It's when those big life changes happen, I think. That's when we lean into our creativity and the language. We find the language eventually, and we find that energy and that flow and that community and those connections. Does that make sense?
No, it does. Makes perfect sense. And I think that in those big moments, we realize that we've tethered ourselves to work or to something external, which is, completely out of our control. And so much of our self goes into that, as opposed to going within and to who we are at the core. So when we're tethered to ourselves and who we are, then that's a much more kind of rooted and grounded sense when things go wrong. But when all of that energy goes to work and we get made redundant or something happens externally, it can be very unnerving and uprooting.
Hello, Lucy here, and I hope you're enjoying this month's episode. I'd love for you to help spread the word. There are several ways that you can do this. One, you can subscribe to the podcast on your favourite platform, which will ensure that you never miss an episode. Two, you could share it with your friends, your family, your colleagues who might be inspired by the stories that we're sharing. Three, your reviews and ratings are incredibly important. They help new listeners discover the podcast and they give me valuable feedback on how I can improve. So, if you've been enjoying today's episode, please take a moment to leave a review. Your support is what makes this possible. I'm on a mission to inspire, motivate and empower fellow creatives to take the road less travelled, and I am so grateful to have you along on this journey with me. Okay, let's get back to the episode.
I'm just exercising a newfound confidence. I might have said this when we recorded, but I don't know if it's my age or what it is, but I have been a shy and quite nervous person most of my life. And Laura May talking about tethering just then, the words came to me that I have now completely tethered to my heart and soul, and that's what I'm allowing to lead with now, without any apology. And I'm putting things out. So, for example, I just reached out to this lady on the tube. I'd overheard her speaking. My husband would probably say I was being nosy, but I'm very interested in people. And I just heard her share a difficulty she was going through, and I had my poems in my handbag, and I just thought, well, I could leave it until the moment when she's about to get off the tube, and I can just give it to her. And if she doesn't want it, that's fine. But I'm going to offer that, and that's all that mattered to me at that point. It didn't matter whether she gave it back to me or said it was amazing. It was just that I could offer that little gift. And I think that when you get to the point in your life, and I do think it is a bit of an age thing, where I've worked very hard on growing into myself, growing my confidence and self-belief, I think that's a really lovely balanced place to be, because you're not going to allow external reactions to rock you, or to rock you off balance. And it probably started, way back when I used to just brave smiling at a person passing me on the street. That felt really triggering to begin with. It's like, oh, what if they don't smile back? What if they think I'm weird? But yeah, there have been all these little consistent changes I've been making, and I find it so freeing, and I'm very grateful. It's really interesting, I find, and I'd love to know if other people find this as well, but I love interactions with people, and I love jumping on a train to London and going for a writing day, and I'll always meet people. And quite often when I've done something like that, the poems just... I'll be writing my morning pages and 3 or 4 poems will come to me, or I'll be in the shower. And in fact, I had to get out of the shower yesterday. I got in, turned the shower on, and then a 4-line verse came to me, and I was like, there is no question. I need to jump out of the shower. I need to dry myself down and get my notebook because I'm not losing this. And, you know, these experiences that then almost supercharge my creativity just amaze me. I love it. So keep writing, keep drawing, keep whatever. Keep self-caring, you know, do something for yourself and really nourish yourself, and, you know, just allow whatever might happen or what might result from that to occur.
But like when you were all growing up, did you know that you were a creative?
No, I mean, in the surroundings I grew up in, it was very black and white. There were the people that could draw, and there were those of us that couldn't. And I definitely fell into the category of I couldn't draw, therefore I was labelled not creative. And that was, you know, in various spheres, I would say.
I definitely knew I was a creative, but probably when I was growing up through my dad, because he was highly creative. And so it kind of fell down to me as well. I just had the same kind of attitude to things. But going back to what we were saying about schooling and education, I think I kind of learnt through not getting top marks that, oh, actually, I'm not that good. So I'm not actually a creative. And then I've always worked in creative fields, but I've never felt like I'm the creative, I'm the artist, you know, and things like that. And I think you've asked quite a few times, Lucy, like, is creativity a necessity or is it a luxury? And I feel for me, I've realised that it's a necessity. So those times that we've all spoken about, that we've all had, that have really just changed your whole perception of everything and your whole life. I just think if you keep going and you persevere and you will find yourself digging deeper just naturally, and it's incredible what comes from that. And I think coming out of the other side of that, you can then kind of really find your thing. Like, I tried loads of different things when I was when I was lost, which is when I found your podcast. I was like, oh yeah, lost in other worlds, that's me. I was trying all sorts of stuff, and my daughter asked me the other day. She said, "Mum, have you finished that painting?" And I was like, "What painting?" And I suddenly remembered that there was one time I was like, I just couldn't get this feeling out. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to get some paints and a big canvas. I'm just going to splash some paint on. And I was just kind of doing all this. And she absolutely loves it. Like, as far as I'm concerned, it's really not very good. You know, an artist will probably look at it and be thinking, oh, you know, whatever. But she absolutely loves it. She keeps coming back to it. And I do remember times when all of us would be painting together. So even I think my little one was like 3 or something at the time. She's there, like, wow, you know, over a paintbrush, and we're all doing this thing together, just getting out whatever we're feeling. And I just think just trying stuff like that all played its part, even though I'm not going to be a painter. I don't want to be a painter or, you know, anything like that. But it played a really important part in just letting myself let go of something in whatever creative way I felt. And so I just think when you do dig deep and you do keep going and you trust, I think you really have to just trust that it will come good. It's just phenomenal what comes out the other side of that.
It's one of those things that I don't know if anyone else feels this, but it's like a natural thing that I'm always wanting to do something. Like I just want to fidget and do something creative. So if I'm working on my laptop, if I'm sat at my dining table, there would be something next to me where in between sending an email out, I have something I'm doodling or, like, you know, fiddling with or painting or kind of touching something up. I think, I don't know, my brain just kind of is like, I always need to do something. But then that element of rest comes into it, is, taking that time to rest, and then that energy can be put towards spending a lot more time doing something creative rather than in and out and not being fully present. But yeah, it's I think it's also who you're around to influence your creativity and encourage it. And the topic of relationships that you mentioned, Lucy, is actually incorporating that builds stronger connections. We're all here for similar reasons. We're all feeling connected because we're sort of positively influencing our creativity. And I guarantee after this call, I'm going to have a massive boost and want to do something creative tomorrow or the weekend or something. And I don't know if it's the same for you guys, but yeah, I found this, and Joe, you mentioned a really good point, which is giving me hope.
I so resonate, Nisha.
That confidence I always in yourself,
feel it so much in my heart when I do things like this.
Right,
it's just like,
and I think
all the energy is just kind of bubbling, and you can't wait to kind of put it into whatever that you want to create. But I do think that, notoriously, as we get older, there are so many things in a day that keep us super busy, and it can be chaotic and frantic. And again, to what we were talking about with the pressures of, how a day is structured, which is kind of out of our control. We have to stay within that. So I feel as though creating intentional space and giving ourselves permission to do that. I think giving ourselves permission is such a critical piece of it, because we can look at a day and be like, well, how on earth am I supposed to create time? And I remember thinking that a couple of years ago. It's like, how would I create time in my day? This is impossible. But I think a lot of it was actually, I just wasn't giving myself permission to. I just kind of was pushing myself almost to suffer, because it's just all I knew. And so the idea of creating space was actually scary. It was like, well, I don't know what's going to even come up. So let's just avoid that completely and just keep going. Because that was the only muscle that or the tool I had in my toolkit at that point. So learning how to create intentional space and trusting that it's going to give you the nourishment that you actually need, I think is so important to then be creative and expand in that way.
The flexibility that self-employment brings to us as creatives. Jenny, you feel, setting up Languages for All has given you that space, that time to use your energy more wisely and do the things that really light you up, and you are so, living your best life now. And, we wouldn't have even known that would have happened when we were working together, because we were so in the thick of it.
I know. Which I think that's working in a school, or I suspect any kind of corporate environment, gives you the rigidity of that timetable of whatever those working hours are, and where you've got to be somewhere at a certain time and do that thing, whatever that task is at that time, involving other people, and also the different hats you have to wear when you move from, in teaching, you go from one age group to another, sixth formers down to year sevens, and then you have a conversation with a parent, and then an incidental catch up in the staff room or something. It's full on, all of those things. And something I love most about being freelance is, firstly, the ability to say, no, I'm not going to do that. And allowing myself to say that's not the right client for me. No, this isn't going to work. I'm not going to do that. Or I simply don't want to teach that subject, although I'm qualified to. I don't want to do it. And you can't force me to. No one can force me to. But also, I have finally learned to let go of the guilt. The guilt of, I should be doing this within a time frame. And now I plan my day and my week according to what fits with me. And of course, I do have scheduled in lessons, and that happens. But on a day when I work late, I start late, and I take time for me in the morning to do things, or I take the afternoon off and do something nice. And that's really, really empowering, because I can do whatever I want with that time. And I started out just being so tired, I would just sort of do nothing. And now I've started to explore things that I enjoy doing with that time. And it's been really great. I'm learning languages again, just for me, not because somebody needs me to teach that language. I'm teaching one of my children a language as well, and doing that, and that's really thoroughly enjoyable. And so Yeah, that's been the really special thing, I think, about having that time and space, and understanding that I don't have to feel guilty about how I use it.
I think saying no to stuff kind of sets everything off, doesn't it? Because in saying no to things that you don't want to do, but also things you don't want around anymore, or even people or relationships or just anything in your life, opens up so much space to be able to recognize what you do really want. And I think you can go for years without actually listening to that properly, listening. And once you've cleared that space, you allow yourself the time to invest in yourself. And that's that permission that I think, we all feel that we've given to ourselves to be creative. And it's permission to invest time in ourselves as well. I now have a whole day every week just to work on my creative project, which maybe a year, 18 months ago would have been felt like it was absolutely impossible to carve out that time and an absolute luxury. Whereas now I've realized, with the support of my husband and the connections I've made in creative spaces and, people like you, and I watch what you're all doing, I realize that it's vital. It's really, really vital to make space for that, to invest in yourself, to know that it's what you need. And just the most amazing stuff comes out of it.
Yeah. You talk about connections and community, and I mean, we wouldn't have ever met. And I'm so I'm so excited to now have you in my life. What does the road look like now for you, as you continue down this road? Is there anything that you've got planned or that you would like to share that we can watch out for? Nat?
The road for me is now crystal clear, which feels amazing. Was just not anything like this, even just a few months ago. Even I remember doing some training years ago with somebody, and we caught up. This is probably a few years ago now, and I remember they said to me, everything was kind of working out. They said, I just at some point just suddenly knew what to do. And it stuck with me. It was just such a beautiful thing to say. And I thought, how lovely, what a lovely feeling that must be. And that's kind of how I feel now. So I'm working on the immersive experience, but off the back of that, I've just got this whole new brand coming. And it feels like I don't do things forever. Like I've never had this is my forever house, or, whatever it is. I just, other than my husband, nothing's ever forever. But this feels like forever. I feel like I've got a creative home now where I'm going to just put all my stuff whenever I need to just get something out there. And I can kind of remove myself from that as well now, which was part of ending the blog. I can just do what I want it to do, which is to help other people and just create something special. And I think it was just out of doing the work behind the scenes as well, not just the creative work, not just the practical work, but the work that you do on yourself, accepting stuff, hitting stuff head on. I just think has brought me to a place where I just feel creatively so free, which I've never felt that way, never. And it can take some time. And believe me, there have been times where I've been thinking, this is going so slow. I'm not getting anywhere. Is anything ever going to happen? Is this just ridiculous? But it was just all part of the process. And I've learned to trust that now. And I trust it. And so I'm relaxed about it. And it just feels so positive. It's just so funny, Lucy, because when I met you, I literally was just in the wilderness, just thinking, I don't really know what I'm doing, but I just did a speaking course. So someone's doing I'm just going to go on there.
How funny.
And had the most amazing conversation with you. And now here I am with all these people that I've listened to,
Yes,
who have just enriched my life as well. And it's phenomenal. It's brilliant what you've created.
Something that you said in your episode with me, Nat, has stuck with me, and I actually say it to other people now. And you said, nothing is ever wasted. And that phrase has stuck with me since our conversation. Nothing is ever wasted.
It's a hard. I know it's a hard one, because I think just as a mom, or getting older, or if you've lost someone, or if you've not accomplished something,
Yeah.
all these things are really quite painful. And
Yeah.
if you don't kind of deal with them, they can become more painful. And I think when I've flitted about, like, so I've done so many different things, and I've literally just edited my website, and I can now see the pattern, and I've got it all up there. Like, for the first time, I'm actually proud of it. I'm not shying away from it. It all makes sense to me now. Whereas for a while, I was kind of thinking, oh, am I wasting time? And just kind of criticizing yourself and being hard on yourself, that I didn't get to this point sooner. I didn't need to get to this point sooner. I'm at this point at exactly the right time, with exactly the right people, with the right experience, and everything that I need to find it fulfilling. So I just feel like it's a saying me and my husband have, that, just nothing is ever wasted. So sometimes if we've been working on something, or, something's just not quite gone the way we expected, we're like, well, it's going to, at some point, it will come back, and it will be relevant, and it will be important. So let's just not beat ourselves up over it. And it's a hard, I agree, it's a hard one. It's quite an emotional thing. And it's all part of the trust. So I think once you can relax into it and trust that whatever you've been doing is absolutely fine, it'll lead you to where you need to be.
Absolutely. Does anybody else want to share what they're doing that's coming up? You don't have to, there's no pressure. Go on, Jo.
I'm actually quite excited, because life has been really quite full on I started sharing my work back at the end of April. And so that's not been very long, really. But I've had a lot of things going on with part-time work and restarting my business and what have you. And the lovely thing is, I bought a notebook, because I tend to buy notebooks. I love notebooks. And it's a really, really lovely one. And I decided it would just be for brainstorming ideas around my poetry. And I haven't even got round to doing that brainstorm about all the different ways that I can utilise my poetry yet. And I'm so excited that in a couple of weeks' time, when I reduce my part-time working hours, I'm actually going to not have to shoehorn so much into my days, and I can just take myself somewhere really nice for a whole day and just brainstorm all my ideas, and I can't wait.
Thank you. It's just giving yourself permission to do that. I remember, Jo, we cried, didn't we?
Yeah.
We cried together, because I feel your energy very, very strongly.
Likewise.
And yeah, I can't explain it, but there's something that you bring to my life, to me, that I really connect with. I don't know what it is, but you spoke your poetry and the way that you use language, you speak directly to my heart. That is all I can say. It's honestly, it's beautiful. And when I said to you, you have everything in you to do what you want to do. It was the card that came up, and it's absolutely true. You have absolutely everything that you need within you. So thank you.
Bless you, and thank you for being the most incredible cheerleader and leader, in fact, of all of us and all of the people that are tuning in and listening to your podcast. I don't think you realise quite how special.
That's what you said.
There you go.
Thank you.
But so
No.
incredibly special and important.
Oh, goodness gracious me. There's no pressure if you don't want to. I'm just mindful. Laura, thank you.
I'll just say something super quickly, because what Jo and I have said, and Lucy, it's so powerful. And actually, I was supposed to be in Colombia today, and this whole week, yes, for my retreat, and we had to cancel it last minute. So if we hadn't had to do that, then I wouldn't be sitting here with with you wonderful women having this incredible conversation. So, truly there's always a reason for these things. And I think that, I've really had to sit here this week in the rain in this beautiful UK weather, and sit in those kind of questions as to why it didn't happen and all of that. But actually, when I reflect on it, I wanted everything to sort of tie up with the year anniversary and have everything, offered. And then it's this beautiful sort of neatly wrapped bow to then offer out. And I think what I've learned is that it's just a reminder that life has other ideas and it doesn't show up perfectly like that. And actually, the imperfection of what's happened in this last week has opened up so many other ideas and thoughts and ways that I want to do things in the next few months. And like I said, most importantly, it's allowed me to sit here with this wonderful group. So I feel extremely honoured and grateful for this space with you all.
Thank you. Thank you for joining us, Laura. Honestly, something that really strikes me about you is the authenticity that you bring to your work. Honestly, like, just to be, like, you've got this gorgeous, like, calm, inviting, comforting, safe energy. And just this idea of just being yourself, being free to express. You talked about dancing and, you being playful when you were young and, about harnessing that in the work that you're doing now. And I think, the authenticity is really important in this journey. Nisha, you went like this. I'd like to say something, please, miss.
It was just to Laura's point. It got me thinking a few things about what I've been doing this year.
Yeah.
And one thing I learned to do is just completely surrender. Surrender control, surrender sort of just everything. And I remember going to the park, I think it was May, early June, and at 7 a.m, I went to my local park, sat on the swing. I was swinging and swinging, and I was just screaming out. There was no one around, luckily, but I was screaming out. I was like, I surrender. Like, I was speaking to the universe. I was like, I surrender. I leave it to you and kind of let the universe kind of take over and trust it and not feel guilty for receiving some good things. I think for years I've been like, oh, did I deserve that? Should I be working harder? Like, should I be doing more? So I've just been really grateful. And I know, Lucy, you mentioned sort of gratitude journaling. That's been really helpful in sort of speaking out loud things I'm grateful for. But to Laura's point, that freedom of just surrendering and, just you be where you're meant to be and leave it at that sort of thing.
Absolutely. And, we started our episode with you saying this was the year. This is my year. And you made that decision for yourself. And everything that you've done since then has, honoured that, and thank you for my beautiful gift. When I got that in the post, I was like, this beautiful yellow candle. Donna Ashwood, and Donna, the poet, Joe. Is it Donna Ashworth? Thank you, brain. I did know. She. There's a poem about yellow, isn't there? People you find. I'm going to find it. Oh my gosh, I have it here. Is it in Wild Hope, Joe? Is it in this one? Oh, it's in the Growing Brave. Can you please? Yes, I will do. Thank you. Because I felt that very much, that I'd found a kindred spirit with Unisha. And, you checking in on me every now and again really does make a huge difference, honestly, because it can feel very isolating when you're out here trying to brave the wilderness. And I do appreciate those text messages. I do appreciate you checking in with me. It means a lot. Thank you. Thank you. Jenny, dear friend.
It's just, well, Actually, just exactly what you were saying. So actually, the direction I'm moving in at the moment is with other tutors. And I found it so empowering to meet up with other teachers, other lover of languages, and have them come aboard. And it's been quite a process. I've never had to interview anyone or be in sort of that decision-making role before in my career. And I found it really easy to get to know very quickly whether or not that person is going to fit with my business, and the idea that lessons need to be tailored to what that individual that's in front of us needs, to support them on their journey. And I've got some incredible tutors on my team. And it's just amazing that I actually said to myself, this academic year, I am not going to ramp up my teaching timetable. I'm going to sit back and I'm going to pass to these other tutors and trust in them. And that's been really wonderful. I love working alongside these tutors. They're amazing people. They're not all qualified teachers as well, but they all are excellent linguists, and they're natural teachers. They just haven't taken that qualification, and that's been, I think, a great thing for me to just be able to say, well, no, I have faith in these people who can do this. Like, yes, teaching is a vocation, and actually having sat through the year of qualifying to do that, you don't have to do that to be able to actually teach well. So it's been really, really brilliant. And I've got them taking on things that I want to say no to, but I can now say yes to for my company, but not for me. And that's been massive, actually, realizing just how much we can grow through that strength of working together with others, and what I can do to support them as well, which, in some cases is massive. It's really been really, really positive experience for me just this past month of getting those inquiries in and passing them to other people.
And I think, the last 4 years, certainly for you, Jenny, I think you've come into your own. You are so empowered now with what you're doing, and I find that so inspiring. Being a leader is not about showing people your superpower. It's about showing other people their superpower. Yes. And that is what really resonates with me. It's like that's the new sort of leader we need. It's like, it's not about me, it's about everybody succeeding and feeling empowered. And collaboration,
and that teamwork.
Collaboration is like, oh huge. My goodness, like, Joe, you cut me in half, you find your values for your business. Collaboration is one of those values that sits deep within me. And if I'm not in spaces where I don't feel that that's honoured or valued, I'm like, oh gosh, I need to get out. But thank you so much. I didn't know where this was going to go, but what a journey we've taken together. Thank you so much. I hope you've got something out of it. I think that's the key thing, that you get something out of it and you feel inspired, and hopefully
we'll have to do it again.
I think that's the key thing. Well, I don't know. Yes, I would say yes. It's going to be interesting. What time is it now? 9:20. The editing process starts. I'm going to really enjoy listening back to this. I'm intending to get it out tomorrow, but you know what? If it doesn't go out tomorrow, it doesn't mean that I've failed. It doesn't mean that I've let anybody down. It just means that I'm tired and I'm a teacher and I've got to get up early in the morning. I think the world will really love this conversation.
Thank you so much.
I think they need it. You got this. Exactly.
I can see you doing an in-person at some point,
Do you?
Like the wilderness kind of like huddle or something. Oh. Because I went to this conference, was it Monday? Yeah, it was yesterday. And it was all about raising up women raising up women.
Yes.
And they were just the most amazing talks, and that was all just about very personal journeys and all manner of things, whereas this would be concentrated on creativity and just hearing people stand up and share their story of being able to be in the same room. I can see it going there, Lucy.
Do you? I don't know. Maybe one day.
Who knows? Could go anywhere, couldn't it? Could literally go anywhere.
I'd have to put some makeup on. It could go anywhere. I'll put it out into the universe, whatever it's going to be. I'm trusting the process, absolutely.